Today I'm going to show you how to make a New York crumb cake. And let me set the scene for you. We've got lots of ingredients here. Let's get started. For the crumb, we're going to take flour, brown sugar, white sugar, cinnamon, and some melted butter, pinch of salt, which we're going to combine till we get our crumb topping. For the cake itself, flour, sugar, softened butter, 2 eggs, vanilla, sour cream, baking soda and baking powder, and a pinch of salt. Always have to have that to round it off. Now the interesting thing about the cake is we're going to do the reverse creaming method. So we're going to combine all of our dry ingredients along with the butter and combine that until it becomes like a sandy crumb, fitting for a crumb cake. And then we'll add our eggs, vanilla, and sour cream and continue to beat it with our paddle blade on our stand mixer until it's creamy and smooth. And then we'll add that into our prepared tin, which we've buttered and lined with some parchment paper. Now, something a little different, people might think it's a crime from New York, is that I'm going to take some of our crumb and reserve it and swirl it through the cake. And then we'll add the rest of our crumb on top. Okay, the first thing we want to do is to combine our ingredients for the crumb. So there's the flour. I'm going to add the salt now. About 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Our brown sugar. Our white sugar. And our cinnamon. Now I'm just going to use a whisk to combine this all together, because I need a little more space. There, that's better. I'm just using a whisk to combine this all together before we add our melted butter. I'm also going to reserve some of this mixture, as I said, for the swirl we're going to put into our cake. So I'll just finish getting this set and come back when I'm ready to add our melted butter. Okay, that's combined, so I want to just remove about 1/3 cup of our mixture, maybe a little bit more, that we'll use for our swirl. Okay, now we'll add in our melted butter. I'm going to keep some of this melted butter for our swirl. It's unsalted butter, but you can use salted if you like. Actually, I think I need a spoon. I have my trusty wooden spoon here. And I'm going to just mix this together to create our crumb with our melted butter. So just combining that, I think it needs a bit more melted butter. We want this to form our crumb. There we go. That's looking good. Okay, our crumb topping is ready, as well as our element for the swirl. So now we're going to turn our attention to the cake itself. So we'll just add all of our dry ingredients. The flour, the sugar, baking soda, baking powder, and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to slowly combine that using my paddle blade. And now I want to add all of our softened butter. And I think it's best to use a spatula. Okay, I have a spatula. I'm just going to put in our softened butter. Oh, you think you have everything to hand and you don't. But anyway, no problem. So we're just going to do that slowly until we have a slight sandy crumb. That's our reverse cream. So the next thing we want to do is to add our eggs one at a time. I've got that on a low setting. And in goes our first egg. And then our second egg. As soon as it's incorporated, I'm going to add our vanilla extract. About 1.5 to 2 teaspoons vanilla, depending on your taste. And now we'll add our sour cream. So this reverse cream method will result in a really beautiful crumb in contrast to the crumb topping for our cake. So that is 3/4 cup of sour cream. I'm just going to increase that a bit just until it's smooth. Okay, it's looking good. I'm just going to drop that. Remove our paddle blade in the bowl. And I am going to give this a scrape, as with everything. I'm going to make sure everything's incorporated, that we don't have any stray flour or anything that's hanging around at the bottom of our bowl. So actually it's looking pretty good. I will give that one more. I will give that a little more mixing with our blade here, just to make sure everything is fully incorporated. And like any cake batter, you don't want to overbeat it. And that is it. So now we'll add that to our prepared tin. Which I have here. I'm going to start with the blade. I always like to get everything, well, as much of the batter as I can, since we spent some time to make sure it's perfect in terms of its texture. I'm really going to enjoy this. I think this is a great cake with coffee. Some people do call it a coffee cake, but it is a New York crumb cake. At least that's the recipe that I'm following, with maybe some minor adaptation. The cinnamon swirl. Set that there. And the rest of it from our mixing bowl. You see that? Doesn't that look good? Nice and smooth. Now we have our oven set, preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 Celsius. And I'm going to bake that until a skewer comes out clean. Now, the timing will be in the recipe, which you can find the link below in the description box to the full recipe. But the thing to remember is everybody's oven is a little bit different. Your ingredients will be a little bit different, and how it bakes and the time it takes will be a little bit different. I'm going to take my offset spatula and I'm just going to smooth that to make sure it's into the corners. And now is the point where we're going to add some of our swirl. Just sprinkle that in. The rest of it I'll leave for the top. And I'm just going to take our spatula and just swirl that through. Now all we have to do is add the crumble topping and put it in our oven. Again, that's 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 Celsius for about 40 to 45 minutes. We will check it. I'm going to just chunk these if I can by squeezing them. Whoops. Always something escapes. I'm going to get that on there. It's typically a very thick layer for New York crumb. So we're going to use every bit of this. So now that's going to go into our oven. I will check it probably at 35 minutes, but I don't want to check it too early. So in it goes. Right, our cake has spent 45, almost 50 minutes in the oven. So we will let this cool for 20 to 30 minutes. We did a skewer test, wooden skewer, and it came out with a few crumbs. And that's fine because this will continue to bake as it cools. And when we can, we'll take it out and we will cut it and give it a taste. I'm looking forward to it. Our cake's been allowed to cool. So now what I'm going to do is to remove it using my little helpful parchment. Right. There we have our cake. Now, I think I want to divide this into 9 squares. So I'm using a serrated knife. I'm going to try to do this without making a huge mess. And I'm just going to turn that a bit so I can get my knife cutting the other direction. Let's take off one corner and see what we get. Now look, you can see a bit of the swirl in there. I'm going to just put these on my cake stand because I think it's easier. And then we'll give it a taste. There we have our crumb cake, our New York crumb cake. And the cinnamon smell is wonderful. And well, I've got my coffee. I've got some to spare. All we need to do now is to taste it. Let's see. Well, it does crumble. Let me tell you, that has a really beautiful and delicate crumb. You get a good crunch from the crumb on top. This is definitely sweet, but actually it's not cloying. So you can enjoy this with your coffee. Morning or afternoon. I think that's a good cake. Thank you, New York. Well, if you enjoyed today's recipe, give us a thumbs up. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel. It's free. And ring that notification bell so you won't miss a single delicious recipe. And finally, please share this video with your friends. It helps to build the community. And if you see a hype symbol, please hype me. I would appreciate it. Well, until next time, bye-bye. I'm gonna have some more cake. As if I need it.